Right guys, welcome back to another episode of The Purpose Project, where we find out why people do what they do, how they do it, and then hopefully inspire you guys to do the same. Today I'm with Rich, and I've known Rich for a little while now. Rich has been training at Urban Reform for a bit, haven't you?
Have, yeah.
We have worked on a number of projects, and I think Rich and Andrew, who run MYP, MRC, and the Social Collective as well, I think they have a really interesting story. So we wanted to run through today your story, how you do things and where you've come from and how you've got to where you are right now. So if you're okay with it, mate, if you want to run me through sort of who you are and what you do, that'd be great.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for having us on. The story goes back to when we came to Manchester initially. Andrew and I were friends from school, went to uni, and then of our friend group, he was the first to work in Manchester. I was then coming up to moving into Manchester, and then he said, do you want to live in the same flat in the city? We moved to Manchester at 21, 22, didn't really know anyone in the city, and kind of from that point we wanted to like explore the city and this amazing place, but we didn't really know how to do it, which sounds strange really when you've got all these one road into the main street and then bars and so on. But it was about meeting new people as well and kind of connecting with the city. So we spent many nights in the flat watching TV and chatting about kind of ideas. We wanted to come up with some ideas. We were both I worked for Kellogg's in sales, and Andrew works still in finance for Brooks Macdonald. And albeit we did very different things, we shared many similarities. We wanted to explore the city, as I say, and one of the ways we wanted to do that was to tackle it by meeting new people and exploring it with them. So yeah, we went to 1 or 2 networking events, trying to meet people, and they weren't really what we wanted, what we thought it should be nowadays. We wanted to try and keep things a bit more straightforward and simple.
So where's this on the timeline? How many years ago is that?
So this is 13 years ago.
So 13 years ago, you go to these networking events, and you're thinking this isn't right. It could be better.
It was like name badges, suits and tie, all like people looking the exact same, and it was very formal, speeches, everything, and it was really quite. Yeah, just formal. So we decided that we think there was a maybe better way to do it. So we had a chat about creating something a bit different.
Nice. So at that point there, you've then is that the start of?
So that's the start of Manchester Young Professionals,
right.
which came about in the Wharf in April 2013. So yeah, how long's that? 12 years ago. And I was at Kellogg's and I invited 10 of my friends from work, and then he invited 10 of his friends from work, and then there was 20 of us in the Wharf in Castlefield. So his company put a bit of money behind the bar. We had like a pop-up banner there, and then we had a networking drinks event, and it was the start of the Manchester Young Professionals journey, I guess.
So what was the goal? The goal was to make it more laid back, but still offer value, still build, I'm guessing, quality connections.
Yeah, and so the angle from Andrew's side was more a work connections angle. He wanted to build a network out. He was at the start of that journey to build his network in his working life, I guess. And my side was Kellogg's didn't really need to have like a network to benefit work. Kellogg's were going to sell no more cornflakes if I met a couple of people. But it was more personally, I wanted to meet some people and build a network of friends in the city. Mm-hmm. I went to uni in Leeds, Andrew went to uni in Warwick, and we built friendships there, but this was like a new era of friendships for us, trying to build some new mates basically in the city. And even though we had different views of what we were doing it for, it still was the same thing. It was getting people in a room in an informal kind of setting, and we were just welcoming people. We just literally did that. We welcomed people. Everyone had a welcome drink, and then people chatted.
Right. And so that stemmed from, you've come to Manchester and thought, I want better connections. So you weren't thinking about networking before going to a networking event?
No. I was just thinking about meeting new people. Right. So yeah, networking for me had a negative connotation. I felt it was like stuffy, formal, forced. But really, what we do is we do networking with a bit of a purpose, I guess, and like it's equally the informal thing for us was key, that we could not make people feel too scared. What is this big thing we're going to? Probably how we felt when we were 21.
Yeah, of course. You've identified those problems that you had. Yeah. Going to a networking event, seeing it as like there's a gap for this, especially in Manchester City Centre. I suppose it's worked well because of the way it's grown.
Oh, we're lucky. We're very lucky, Rick, honestly. The Manchester's very different to 12 years ago. You had Deansgate locks, you had a few bars on Deansgate, you had a few restaurants, Things like Rudy's was just opening, the first branch. And then there's chains in the city and stuff. But no, it was very different to what it is now. And Manchester's boomed over the last 5 to 10 years to a level where we are very lucky to be doing what we do in this city, and that's why we try and focus all our attention on this city.
Yeah. So that's the origin of you and Andrew and MYP. And then you've obviously identified something with a run club at some point. Do you've got something. We want to set this up. At what point on the timeline is that?
Only recent,
right?
In the scale of the last 12 years of doing this, the run club came out of lockdown really. So
was the social collective before the run club?
No, the social collective probably came most latterly.
Right. Yeah. So you've nailed MYP. You've grown that because in terms of a presence MYP, what has that grown from in the past 12 years, like a following wise?
So we're lucky to have when we started it, we didn't want to have like a membership fee or anything that people had to pay. So as part of this thing we were trying to create to have barriers low for anyone joining us and something that was accommodating and welcoming, we said, well, we don't need it to have a membership fee. We can be inclusive. Anyone can come. Any sector. That was different at the time. There were other things around that were sector specific, but we identified if we did something that was more broad, like Andrew and I's position was abroad. We weren't in the same sectors. That meant we could still have common ground and like build relationships. And so I guess the run club came out of lockdown, which came 5 years ago now, nearly 5 years ago, and then the social collective has come more latterly in the last 2.5 years.
And then so what's worked well for MYP then? Because that's been the catalyst to run club and the social collective, hasn't it? So what works so well with MYP that helped increase your following and your engagement? I mean, how many people do you have active on MYP right now?
So MYP, the nature of what we do two things. One is the in-person events, which are like mainstay. So we'll do now around 80 events a year for MYP across the social events, the wellness events, and the careers events. And then within that, we'll have the other section is the content side of things. So I guess talking to our community online. It's not all about in person anymore. The world has changed dramatically from a marketing standpoint and a communication standpoint. That was sped up through COVID clearly. So we have around 30,000 members of the community. We'll have about 6,000 people will come annually to our events. And then we'll have the rest will be people who might have been previously who still want to engage with us, want to know what's going on, but they won't be active at events in person. But we don't mind. That's good. If you want to engage with us on socials, on our WhatsApp group, on our newsletter, through our social pages on Instagram, which in our reels, that's fine. If you want to go to our events, that's also great.
Right. So your team then, because it was just you and Andrew at the beginning.
Yeah.
At what period did you then start to bring more people on to support with the team?
Yeah, and this has been a key part of it. We've probably gone from having a side hustle thing where we needed team to help us to now it's not a side hustle thing, but the team is still so important to that. So when we were even like a year in, we invited a few people to be on our committee. It was called at the time, our team, to help us with what things in the city are going on that we should be aware of. What across.
So like your board team.
Yeah,
kind
basically.
of. Yeah.
So someone who works in property, someone who works in finance, someone who works in marketing, someone who works in fashion. You tell us what you think is going on and what we need to be have our eyes open to. And so with that, we've gone from having initially 2 or 3, and now we have 15 people.
Right.
These are people who give up their time outside of work, want to be involved in something that's a community-led initiative, and they are really, really pivotal to it.
What's the reward for these people engaging on that then?
It's the chance to really drive the community forward and drive our agenda forward. So if they have a particular passion outside of their day job for something, we can help them achieve that, whether that's an initiative in the city, something that's going on, or a particular venue they want to do an event at, or a panel talk they have a particular passion for. We did an event for International Women's Day in the last few weeks, and outside of that as well as doing a panel talk with some of our team, giving them the chance to talk about their views on it and what they think that the community should know more about. We did a podcast as well where we talked about some specific initiatives across finance and legal that they think, and we 100% agree, that people don't know about these blind spots potentially. So it's giving that platform for them to have a real key voice in the city, building their profile.
Yeah. So I suppose with that, what I find quite interesting is because I find that really relatable. When me and Dean first set up Urban Reform, we originally got a board together because it's like we had no clue what we were doing. We had this dream, this vision of developing workplace wellness contracts, but we just didn't know how to do it. And we put together a team of, we had like a finance director, we had a marketing specialist, we had somebody who dealt with property and housing. We had people from all different backgrounds who we'd meet with once every 2 to 3 months for more advice and support and direction. It sounds like your cadence though was like they were more proactively working on projects as you developed. It wasn't like a monthly thing, was it? Was your board and your committee working with you on the regular?
It was when they had the space and the time to do it. So because it's they've got their full-time job, they're progressing in their career. It was when they have that opportunity in their schedule to help and get involved.
Right.
That was when they would then get involved.
Right.
Realistically,
So was that frequent or not? Some people more than others.
I'd say there's 2 areas of specific help we have. One is these ideas, and this doesn't happen 10 times a year. This is 2 or 3 initiatives a year that each of them will drive in and will make happen, which is so important. And then the other element is something that underpins all the things we try and do, which is around being a welcoming, supportive community. So they are like us in the sense that we try and instill a big welcoming hello to everyone, a big warm welcome. So at events, when we have the events, these guys will come to the events and be present physically to welcome the community. So we think back to when we were first going to these events. You felt a bit out of your comfort zone. You felt like, do I know anyone in this room? This is going to be scary. We know that people do get scared coming to their first event and they're nervous. That's only natural. But these guys that are on our team, they are the best, the very best at helping these people feel welcome. And whoever's on the door, we'll give them a nice chat, a welcome. And then we'll always say, listen, there's these 3 people here tonight. If you ever need anything, you go and speak to them, they'll help you. And these guys will check in with people, make sure they're okay. And that's something that we think we do that at the door. Actually, what happens is it instills that through the group. So people kind of have that inside them at that point and almost take that on. So we're very lucky to get
They champion that then?
They champion that hugely,
right.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good.
Yep.
So we'll go back to the timeline then. Let's get a bit more up to date because obviously Manchester Run Club's in the past, what did you say, a couple of years?
4 years, yeah.
4 years, right, so past 4 years and then Social Collective's relatively new.
Yes.
So you've led up to a certain point of success with MYP, it's grown a lot, you've set up the Run Club. Where did that come from?
A big kind of point that changed our journey was lockdown, obviously, and mainly for us because we're an events business. Everyone was clearly impacted by lockdown in their own way, but we had to then stop doing our in-person events. And at the time, with this being like a side hustle for us, we kind of built around what was the timeline? Probably 7 years of doing a MYP, and then lockdown happens. And then at that point, I was thinking about going into this full time. I remember being sat in Mackie Mayor, working on a project, and then Andrew rang me and he said, "Have you seen the news about what's coming?" And I said, "It doesn't matter what news, we're fine." And we obviously weren't fine, and then we had to kind of pause our schedule for 15 months of in-person events. But what we did at that point is said, well, we have 2 options. One option is we can step back from this thing. We've both got successful careers, me in the FMCG industry and Andrew in finance, and we can then we've had a great time. Or we can try our best in lockdown to carry on and push, but we'd have to think differently. So we said, let's push and think differently. So we said, let's think about what people want now. Well, they want to be looked after more than ever before and feel like they're part of something in a world where we were all at home and not able to go and connect at these events and meet new people. So we launched our mentoring scheme, which has been a really successful scheme. We've done 6 cohorts now. 1,000 people have gone through that scheme, which is a free initiative for people to join. The idea behind that was how do we connect and develop people outside of in-person events, and you can do that obviously online. We could do that through the mentoring scheme. So we ran that for the whole time. We still run that to today. Right. And so that was fantastic, supported by Manchester Business School. And then the second thing we did was the Run Club. So that was online. We did a Strava page for Manchester Young Professionals Run Club. And then within like a month, we had 1,000 members on that page. Because this is all the people in MYP who were wanting to feel part of our thing, but we didn't have any events. So we said, this is our version of how you can keep engaged with us. So we had all in-person stuff. We connected with our hospitality partners to give away stuff from their venues who had a problem at that time, obviously, with the community. If you run 5K this week, you'll be in with the chance to win, I don't know, 2 loaves of bread from PKB or a dinner at Albert Schloss when they open, for example. So we did this and it was really successful. When we could do outside
provisions,
walks and things like that, and with small groups, we couldn't do a run club. Once we opened up a little bit and you could do bigger things, in early 2021, we then did our first run club event for MYP. And we had like 50 people, and that was amazing because we were getting 50 people to some of our drinks events. And this was the shift that happened at that point. And then we went on from there and said, well, this is really good. So we did a campaign with Adidas and ProDirect. We were approached by them to do a run club event about a new shoe, and it was a Manchester versus London marathon kind of battle. They wanted to use a run club in the north, a run club in the south. And so we did an event with them in Colony in Ancoats. We had about 60 people turn up, trying on these new trainers. And then a guy came downstairs who lived in the building who was coming to try the run club. And I said, have you been to an MYP event before? And he said, what do you mean? MYP is a run club, isn't it? And I was like, no, not a run club. So at that point we realised, because the content of people running and smiling and feeling good on socials looks great, our MYP page became what could have been a run club page.
Yeah.
So we then had a decision to make. Do we go down the route of having this as a run club? We aren't runners. We aren't professional runners by any means. I'll just flick that back on.
Oh, has it gone off?
Right, it's going to be time out every.
Yeah, it's all right.
minutes.
It's all right.
I'll just start that bit again if you want.
But no, yeah, go on, mate. Carry on.
So we had a decision to make. Do we take it down the route of going down a run club, or do we take it down a route of not doing this anymore and going back to what we knew? Because we could then at this point go back to MYP events.
Because that's MYP is being identified as MRC then, isn't it? Your Manchester Run Club, so to say.
Yeah,
and that's a confusion.
Exactly, and that's a confusion because MRC didn't exist at this point. Yeah, it was only MYP, but it was MYP Run Club, and so the MYP.
But they seen it as a run club.
They seen it as a run club. Yeah. And so we then we said we really want to go after this. The big change that lockdown did was create this wellness awareness, people looking after themselves more clearly. And so we identified that as well as in MYP doing wellness events, there is enough scope to do something outside of that. So Manchester Young Professionals was then back to what it was. Manchester Run Club was born officially in August 2023. And that new brand, we started doing events, running 5Ks. And we moved over some of our lead team who helped with that to help pace people. And like MYP, we always just said we're all about just making sure everyone can go to a run, be welcomed and supported through just doing a 5K. And that was August 2023.
Right. And then that boomed.
And that boomed.
Running's
gone mad. Running's gone mad. So we then did.
Fitness racing and running now is, that's why we've experienced that boom at the HQ. It's people going crazy for it. If anything, we've had to cap. We've had to step back as a business for that aspect of that branch of the business, urban reform, the actual performance centre, and we had to step back and go, this is booming that much that if we put any type of advert out, we get people in very quick. How do we actually support and maintain and look after those people? And I don't know whether have you faced any similar problems to that with the growth and boom of this fitness, this wellness aspect. Has it been hard to manage the actual numbers that you've been getting through, or have you found that it's worked quite smooth?
No, it's been hard, yeah. I think one thing I'd say is we've had to create a new lead team, in effect, of 30 people they've been members of the Run Club themselves, and then they've been really keen to get involved and help us. One thing that happened at the start was we were going from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 to 120 people for runs. And at that point, we were running 5K with kind of 3 or 4 people involved who were helping lead that. Myself, Andrew, Marv, Lucas, who's a big part of the Run Club from day dot, and then 1 or 2 others. And then at this point, we were one line of people running through Manchester. And with that comes a little bit of risk and danger, and we didn't want that. There's also different abilities, and we're aware that there's people who run a 4:30 5K quite easily, and then who want to run at 7 minutes because they're new to running a 5K. So with MYP, we've always been inclusive and welcoming and kind of supportive of anyone's needs. And so with the Run Club, we identified that we have to be something for everybody. So running for everyone is our slogan. And with that, we had to then invite more run leads to help us to split the run club down. So if you get 120 people, we're running 4 groups of 30.
Yeah.
And that's much more manageable then. So yes, that challenge was there, and we're very lucky we've now got 30 amazing run leads who help us weekly get people around the city centre safely. We'll have around 12 per week who help us, and they'll be split into 3 or 4 groups, and we'll run between 4:30 and 7 minutes and make sure everyone gets around. But yeah, it's been challenging.
Yeah,
having
mate,
250 people trying to get around the city centre on an evening is not easy.
Honestly, mate, I wouldn't actually know where to start with that. You know, in a sense of like organising and running that. Like, I bet people probably won't understand the extent of planning that I'd have to go into place to actually get that running smooth. Especially like, I don't know, do you ever face problems with like, because how do people book on? Do you ever get random people joining it? Like,
again, all these things we've had to then try and work out what the best way is. A big part of it is the venue we partner with. So we'll partner with a venue. They'll host us for 3 to 6 weeks. We'll then meet there. People drop their bags off. We do a welcome. We do some announcements. We do some celebrations of who's done what in that week. People sign up through Strava. They fill in a waiver. So it links to our health and safety and insurance. We do a risk assessment each week for the run we're going to do. We make sure the run leads have the route we're going to take them on. We make sure all the people participating sign up on Strava if they can, and the route is on there so they can have it on their watch, etc. We have all these people who are run leads who are there with a sign saying I'm the 5:30 pace this week, and then we then get people into these smaller groups, and then they do their 5K, and then they come back to the venue and then kind of have a social, because really Manchester Run Club, like many run clubs today, is not a running club in the old style. It's a social club really,
of course,
where people are thinking about their well-being more. So yeah, there's a lot behind it, but it's not rocket science. But we spend a lot of time to make sure it's right, and there's a lot of people who help us to make sure it is right. And fortunately, with a big run club, we're growing fast, and we have a lot of support, and that's amazing.
I feel like with this as well, it's probably a separate conversation as well, because I probably do have a lot of questions about that. In terms like what you mentioned there, I found really interesting. It does sound like it is very well run. It's very well organised. You've obviously got a lot of people helping. There's a lot of numbers coming through, but it is a lot more than a run club. The fact that you are like, you know, saying what people have achieved, and you know, there's that whole process before it. There's that meeting point. There's the conversation before and after. You know, it isn't just we go on a run bye. It's like you are building. I suppose it's back. It still perfectly aligns with you and Andrew coming to Manchester. You're 21 years old or 22. You've stepped in. You've gone to a networking event. Everyone's got the badges on. It's really formal. It's not comfortable. It still has that purpose behind it from yourself and Andrew, doesn't it? Within the run club to sort of break those barriers and make people feel more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that's the bit that we've tried to the lead team have come to the run clubs, and they've come on their own. They've enjoyed it, and they're keen to revisit, and then we'll invite them to be involved to help others. So it's almost like passing on that benefit they've had from, we hear so many stories which are amazing, and they're all genuine about people coming to Manchester, not knowing anybody, going to a run club now, typing in Instagram Manchester Run Club to find a run club. We're lucky.
Yeah.
And someone said to me a few weeks ago, it's the first time someone's ever said this to me. You started Manchester Run. What did you have as a right to start Manchester Run Club?
Yeah.
And that's the first time I've actually thought about that actually. Yeah. So and this is the point of, it's not a run club, it's a social club, but we now call Manchester Run Club. And running's changed. It's not, the stats on people doing marathons now. I think it was something like we worked with Manchester Marathon, and the stats on some of their numbers on entries 15 years ago was something like 75% of people were over 50 who would do the marathon, and now it's the opposite. It's 75% of people are under 50, you think of the average age is probably 30 now doing a marathon, which is very different. And so we're trying to just modernise, like we did with networking, I guess, wellness, running, and connecting people.
Yeah, that entire scene. Yeah. So then you've gone on. You've then been inspired to set up the Social Collective. Where's the inspiration for that? How's that come about?
When we started Manchester Young Professionals, we didn't probably think about the long term. We didn't think that people's like first 10, 15 years in the city would come or would end. We didn't think we had to think about what happened there. So there was probably a point where after lockdown, a few of our regulars, our partners, our sponsors, maybe didn't come back to our events, and we built good friendships with these people at that point, and we sat down with them and asked them kind of why, and they said there's nothing you've done wrong. The product is probably not fit for me anymore at my life stage, my age, my amount of kids now. I might not live in the city centre. I might not want to go out twice a week. I don't need to meet loads of new people because I've already got a great network. I want my networking to be a bit more tailored, a bit more targeted. And because we're an inclusive community where there's no membership fee, anyone can buy a ticket, part of that is you can't control who's there, which we don't want to control that. But sometimes we realise these people were telling us, okay, maybe I want to have a bit more targeted approach to my networking and who's around me. So we then said, what do you do now? What are your things you do now? And a lot of them kind of said, we do private client dinners, which is always going to be the most kind of targeted networking opportunity. But outside of that, what do you do from a networking standpoint? And actually, there wasn't much there. So we said, in the city, is there anything else out there like it? And there's not much, really. So we decided to then have a go ourselves and kind of listen to this group. What is it you would want from something like this? And so 2.5, 3 years ago, we started building this out. Right. And we've now got a small private members community of people, 120 members, who are able to pick their favourite event, and they'll know they're going to be in a room with like-minded people at a similar stage in their career to them. And so that's been another step on our journey, I guess, of having something else, quite a different group, I guess, but all with their own need.
It's come about it sounds like it's come about as a solution to the problem that arose, like you say, of people graduating or progressing from MYP, and you found another solution to that problem, because these people are still integral to what you do, and you're still passionate about them, but it's just finding a way to actually provide a service that is of value to them at that point. Because it does change, doesn't it? You know, you're doing networking at 21, 22 compared to 31, 32. It's two completely different things, especially if you're like progressing in your career really well and you're looking for more. People tend to find a lot more purpose and meaning, don't they? Whereas early on in the early 20s, people might be trying to find that purpose and meaning and trying to figure it out, and that can come from those initial conversations and connections that they're building in that community.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's people who you surround yourself with, we know, is important, and that they can help encourage each other on, and it's about being at a specific life stage. Now, don't get me wrong, if you had someone who was 35 talking to somebody who's 25, there's still benefit there. It's probably just slightly more like mentor-mentee style in terms of, I've done many more years, you're still working through that. And so actually having these separate groups now makes sense.
Yeah. So with you then, Rich, I feel like I'm starting to get a good grasp on your purpose here. But if I ask you the question, what do you feel like your actual purpose is and what you're trying to do, would you say it aligns with everything that you've just said? Or is there something deeper to it? Is there anything else to it?
I think seeing parents when I was younger have their own thing, and then going into own their own companies, and then going into a corporate job at Kellogg's for 10 years, albeit I learned loads, and kind of the company and my managers and peers you'd learn loads from. Probably always wanted to have that ability to run my own thing and do my own thing, and that's a big driver behind it, is having that control over destiny almost. But equally, it doesn't mean you don't work hard or you don't get out of bed and do. The driver for me is having something that I can shape a bit the future and be with the team in control of, I guess, and having more say. And the Kellogg's experience of the corporate world for me was amazing to learn loads of stuff, but equally I was a little cog in a big wheel turning round, and after 10 years of learning a lot, I felt like it was probably time to try and do something, albeit we could have tried earlier, but obviously the COVID slowed that down a little bit. And for me, it's about now shaping the future a bit more with Andrew, with the team, to grow what we've built so far.
So you wanted to be in the driver's seat, you wanted to have your hands on the steering wheel, and you wanted to go in that direction of what your future's going to be. But then you also wanted to have a sense of value where, you know, like you said, you're a small cog in a big business. You wanted to be somebody who's integral to that direction then.
Yeah. And honestly, we do enjoy what we do. We do enjoy the kind of helping people in their different situations. we have an energy for that, and that energy is just a natural energy and something that we've both always said, as long as we have that, we can, we've just been friends from school basically, and then we've ended up now doing this thing together, which has been challenging over the years for sure, but we both find common ground all the time on, all right, what's that, why are we doing this? And we're doing it to help connect people professionally and personally in the city, and that's exactly what we needed that help with back in the day.
Yeah.
And so it means that we can keep that, underpinning everything, like you and Dean talk about. It helps to keep you focused on what's important, and obviously you've got to have a mindset of how do we make it work as a business, but we need to make sure we're looking after the communities in the city that we run.
Definitely. So I suppose the next thing I want to run through then, Rich, mate, is where we've been. So we've obviously connected on that journey. At whatever point we've connected, it's realistically in the past year or so, isn't it, that we've connected. We always knew about Manchester Young Professionals, and we obviously see in the Run Club. I never knew who ran it though. I don't know if Dean did either. I don't properly know whether Dean did. And we had that initial introduction through Jade, who used to work for us at the time. And I just felt when we had that initial conversation, I just really liked what you were saying. I really liked how you came across. And I think that we aligned really well on relationships. So, and from what you've described today, it's clear that relationships are important to you, because all your businesses are built on relationships that people build. And because that was clear that was important to you, and you found a way to align with another company, that made me and Dean very much like, we want to try and work and collaborate with you guys as much as possible. And then since then we have collaborated. We've obviously trained together, we've done bits of events together, and one of the big things we've been looking at is the City Connect games, which we're looking at developing in future months. But from your aspects, I'd love to hear, like, when you found out about us and what we do, what was your lens on all that? Where did that come from? It's obviously come from Jade, but did you hear about it before then?
Do you know what? I had heard about urban reform. I honestly thought urban reform for me is to be too hard to go to. I was someone who went to the gym a little bit, I did a little bit of running, play golf and football, but could I go to do like a session at the gym? No, could I?
Yeah.
And then when we had that initial call and I met you two guys, and I felt like you were speaking similar language to us, and you had a similar view of how you look after your community, how you do the best for them, how you want to grow things, your growth ambitions. It resonated with me. I rang Andrew and said, these guys know what they're talking about, they're great. And don't get me wrong, we had experience of other gyms. The guys, M3 Perform, we've done so many events over the years with them. They're amazing as well, like you guys. And then we've done many events with Barry's, many events with Tribe, all the gyms basically. But having the chat with you after, it helped to see how this next wellness generation could expand their activities basically, and we could do that together potentially, because we know we have a group who want to explore more of that in the city, and having your facility with your passion behind that totally made sense to start doing some events. So we then did a couple of events, and they went down amazingly well.
That was ridiculous. It was so busy.
Yeah, and I think we did a beginner class and an advanced class for those who'd done that sort of thing before, but I know the beginner one was full, and people were trying to get a ticket left, right and centre to come down. And really good to see people stepping out of their comfort zone. But again, we tried to do the same thing as we did with Barry's. When Barry's came to Manchester, Barry's is a scary thing that you have to have a six-pack to go to. Well, that isn't true. As long as we welcome people there as MYP and then bring them in, they feel like they're with a group of people who like them. That's it.
Yeah.
And then they come and do it and enjoy it. And we knew, because we loved it, you were great, and your team of trainers were great, that they're going to enjoy it as well. And it's good to see many of those still training with you now.
Yeah.
And then, since, as you said it, we then said, what more can we do? And City Connect games is something that we're really passionate about. We think there's a way that people can, and this is not about winning high rocks or anything like this. This is about someone doing something that's out of their comfort zone, that's got a competitive element, with a group that's going to support them through that and have some fun with it as well.
Definitely. I suppose because obviously it'd be quite interesting to hear from you actually now. Did you have any idea about the wellness offerings that we had? Or was it just about the HQ? Because 90% of people that we speak to in Manchester City Centre only know us for the gym. There's a small percentage of people who engage in our wellness contracts who only know us for our wellness contracts. But because of the reputation that's been built up through the development of the HQ and the fitness racing and that aspect of the business, we tend to see that most people think of us as a gym, which was always strange for me and Dean, because we think of ourselves as a wellness company and then we do a gym on the side. So when we've then started to speak about wellness opportunities, that's when we've realised the extent of what you're offering and then the extent of what we offer. And that's where we've basically said we can work really well together.
Yeah.
And the wellness contracts then, we obviously both had this idea of, let's create these competitions and these networking events, these wellness opportunities for companies to engage in a different platform. That's obviously growing really well outside of that, just for the general public in fitness racing. Let's try and bring that to a company and they can go for their titles or whatever they want to achieve, whether that's the fittest company in Manchester or anything along those lines. But I think that's going to open up a huge opportunity for companies to further develop, further network, and also create more of a supportive environment within the workplace that is centred around fitness and wellness, because they've got these objectives to work towards and train for, like it's done for everyone else outside of it, training for 10Ks, 5Ks, High Roxes, Apex Games, marathons, all these types of things. Do you feel the same on that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more what you said. We know that people's performance in work, if you have something going on from a wellness standpoint outside of it, is probably going to be better. The camaraderie of the group training together. I was with one of our members of the social collective last week, and she said some of my team did a half marathon or a 10K like last year, and their first ever one, and they loved it as a little group within that company, and then they're thinking about their next race going forward. And realistically, they're not someone who maybe back in the day would have done these races, but actually the benefit of them having this group kind of camaraderie as a team and culture to go and do some achievements is amazing. And we know that if we can bring a more suitable offering for the corporate market together to compete against each other, go in as teams, and we'll have someone who might win, but equally to just get in together as a group and do your best time, and then have an opportunity to meet like-minded people in other businesses is a great opportunity.
Well, it's the whole support process as well to get to that point.
Exactly.
So the journeys that these companies can go on to get to this point of this type of competition. Again, replicating it through fitness competitions. People go on journeys prior to that to get to that level of fitness or level of ability to perform at the standard that they want to perform. You know, we can do that, and we can help companies, we can help educate them in that process to get to these levels of competition, bring them together, create more awareness, and also do it for good causes as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's really important that we are doing things that are going to transform wellness in the workplace and create environments that are more nurturing towards health and wellness rather than potentially neglecting health and wellness. And I suppose this is a stepping stone into that. So I'm incredibly excited to work on this more. I know Dean is, I know you are, and Andrew is as well. And we can obviously, as that develops, we'll release more about that. That might be a separate conversation as well, a separate podcast where we bring something out on that and release it. But I'm really excited to work on that. What I'm going to do now is, mate...
Just pause that.
Yeah, go on, jump on that.
At this point, thank you.
And then, so I feel like I found out about your why. I feel like I've got a good timeline of your journey. I think people listening are going to be very aware of what you guys have been through and what's been integral to each different aspect of the business you've set up. What I'd like to find out is, you know, you guys are obviously successful at what you do. What do you do for yourself that works well? Do you have any like successful practices, anything you do to sort of like make sure that you're working well and your teams are working well? Is there anything that you focus on that end?
For me, it's just about having what is impossible to get is work-life balance, but having my best version of that almost. What can I do in my life in a 7-day period to mean I have things that are going to make me recover, and then that isn't just having more sleep, which is important. It's doing things about my wellness. It's having a couple of sessions in the gym or reform. It's going for a run once a week. It's having a bit of downtime in the evening. Probably learned over the years that you can't always be on. and we probably spent many years of doing that. And actually, what you do is you suffer in areas if you do that. So now we've tried to build or I've tried to build in some habits that help me be more effective in the day. So yeah, having a bit of routine before bed, making sure that the day after I've got a clear plan of what we're going to do, and then within that having some stuff I enjoy as well as my work, which I enjoy, is having things outside of that. So going to the gym and having a sauna twice a week, or if I can more. But equally, we have the evening events where you work until 11 o'clock. So it's a long day, and then you don't switch off until midnight sometimes, and then it knocks into the day after. So finding a few habits that I've built in that enable me to improve my sleep, and honestly, like having like a Whoop and a Garmin watch over the last 4 or 5 years, that data helps you learn a little bit more about you and what you like. Everyone's different, obviously, and if you can make some marginal improvements, then you can get more out of what you do.
Sounds like a self-renewal practice that, you constantly, you're looking at how full your cup is on a daily basis, and then you're proactively looking at ways to fill that cup up a little bit more, because there's constant ways that it's being taken out of, and that's chopping and changing week to week. And then you've obviously got your data, you've got your information that you're now using to help basically navigate that better. It's telling you when to step up and do more, but it's also telling you when to step back. And do you feel like you have a good sort of gut instinct now and a good sort of understanding of yourself? Because probably similar to me, early on, you go on and on, all out, non-stop, and then you realise, I mean, the big life change for me was becoming a type 1 diabetic. I got sick because of how much I was working. That was a complete lifestyle change. Do you feel like you're at a point now where you can navigate that well, and you do find, like you say, it's not going to be perfect, the balance, but you find a good balance to function well?
Yeah, and only recently, I'm 35 now, and probably 15 years of, nearly 15 working hard and doing as much exercise as I sort of want, playing paddle and playing golf, doing other things. And only in January I had a knee injury, and it was not a football injury, it was just, I was walking down Deansgate and my knee kind of went on me. Yeah. I went to see the physio, and he just said you've overworked your knee, and there's a bit of an issue in your knee which we need to fix. And so that was a point in time where the physio said you're probably not doing enough mobility, you're probably not doing enough strength work to make up for all the things you're doing in your life. Yeah. You're probably not doing enough recovery. And so when at that point you get told that, you have to stop and think, because this year I had great plans as part of my routine. I will have things that I book in to try and have a target and a focus.
Yeah,
so
work towards,
we did Barcelona half with Manchester Run Club, and we did High Rocks in Copenhagen with Andrew, and then I've got
London. Well done on that, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that was in a period of time where I was thinking, I said to the physio, what do you think? He said, well, you probably shouldn't do Barcelona half, and you probably shouldn't do High Rocks. But he said, if you want to, you can just rest now and then see how you get on. And so that's what we did. But what it's made me realise is that you need to probably have more time for recovery. And look at the week in the round and not do everything and necessarily say no a little bit.
Yeah. Sometimes less is more.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely with training. Definitely. So Rich, what we'll do is we'll move on to a final bit. Looking ahead. What's the plans, mate? What's your aspirations? What are you trying to do? Is there anything big you're trying to achieve, or what are you guys trying to do at MYP, at Manchester Run Club, at the Social Collective, and what are you trying to do with yourself?
We're very lucky. We've just got to a very nice point where I've been fortunate enough to go into this full time in the last few months, and that's been 12 years of work to probably get here as a side hustle into a full-time thing now. We have a team of people, a small team albeit, but 2 full-time people, part-time person. These people are critical to it, then the team we have. So we've just gone through a really nice phase where we've now got to a really effective setup. We've just got a new office, which is exciting, with Colony. We're moving to a brand new space, Spring Gardens, next month. So this is a really good point for us, where we've just set some really clear foundations in the last 6 months, and we can go forward from there. And collaborations is probably one of the big things. Yeah. We aren't looking to change things massively. We're looking to get better at everything we do and elevate things. We want to make MYP continually innovative and original with stuff we do. We've been going 12 years now. We still got a really big community and it's growing. We want to make sure we bring a great graduate strategy in for that with universities. We'll be doing one of our new members of the team. He's a second year at Manchester Met, and he'll be helping us to advise, okay, what are the things that we should be talking to students about to bring them in,
nice.
retain that talent in Manchester. Manchester Run Club, we've got loads of amazing collaborations set up. Adidas and Pro Direct, we're into a big campaign with them around the Manchester Marathon right now. And then for the social collective, it's just making that experience better for members.
Yeah.
And then we've got a few things outside of that. The collaboration with you we're really excited about. And then we've got a few other little bits as well, which are probably just too early to talk about right now.
Yeah, of course.
I think the big thing for us is the collaboration point. We've always been lucky to collaborate with people in Manchester, and for us, people in Manchester, they're actually, there's a lot of people who want to collaborate, and if you can collaborate, we were chatting about this before, but you can create opportunities for both of your audiences to see what you do, and that enables everyone just to grow and benefit. And there's no negative with that. It's only positive. So we're looking for more collaborations going forward to help us to keep things really exciting for our members.
Yeah, mate, it's amazing. And then what about yourself? Is there anything that you're looking at just for yourself going forwards?
I think that I've got some races this year, London Marathon, as I just mentioned there. Yeah. There's an element of like trying to just make sure I have enough time for everything in life. So probably do more with friends and family outside of work. I'm moving house this year, which is exciting.
Nice.
Moving, first time I'll be out of the city centre.
No way.
In all the time I've been in Manchester, which is going to be, but only going to Prestwich. So
right, okay, yeah.
We'll be doing lots of MYP events in Prestwich, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Got to go into those ones. And then the run club around Heaton Park will be nice, maybe. Nice. So that's exciting. And really, I'm just very fortunate to be in the position to, listen, these are communities and people in the city we know. We're very fortunate to know kind of thousands of people in the city that have been to our events. And we've got to a place now where we're hopefully just delivering consistently, and we'll make these all better this year. So this is the focus: is get things right and better from now on.
Mate, amazing. Well, I feel like I've got a good grasp of why you do what you do and how you're doing things, and this processes as well behind, which has been really insightful. If anybody has any questions or they want to inquire more about any of your services, the best stuff just hitting you up on Instagram, getting you on MYP, on MRC and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Come to an event and meet us there. It'd be great to have you, to welcome you to one of our events for sure as well, whether it's an MYP event or a run club. We're starting on the 8th of April back for our next series for spring, which is lead up to Manchester Marathon. And then MYP, loads of exciting things. We've got our big spring social next Thursday at Diecast. Over 400 people in there for Let the Hair Down.
Is that the beer hall?
It is in the beer hall.
Yeah,
you know it?
Yeah, of course, mate.
You've had one or two of your dues.
Yeah, we've done Christmas dues there.
Have you? It's our first one there, so we're excited about that.
That's great. You're gonna love it.
Revs de Cuba has been a venue for many years, so we've just mixed it up for this one, so it should be great.
No, I think it's a good choice.
Yeah.
But Rich, that's everything. Thank you very much for that, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
And then we'll get something else recorded again soon. Ideally around the City Connect game. And get that out there.
Love it.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Legend.
Cheers, mate. Excellent. Cheers.